YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back with some more NFL offseason discussions. And basically in this video, I'm going to go team by team. We're going to split up into divisions though, and I'm going to break down who I think these teams should and could cut, and we're going to try to fix their cap situation. We're going to try to see what their cap situation could look like going into free agency, the start of free agency. So we'll look at guys that we can cut, we can trade, what I think will happen, what their trade value may be, stuff like that. So we're going to eventually get through all the teams. We're going to go division by division. So over the next few days, the next week or so, we're going to have a lot of these videos. We're going to have a lot of free agency predictions with other guys from the channel. So you get to see a little, different perspectives on potential landing spots for each of the free agents and where we think they will land. So lots of those videos coming the next week or two, leading up to free agency, and we have plenty of NFL draft coverage as well. As you can see on our screen here, we got our Twitter, link in the description, and our Instagram, link in the description. Lots of good discussions on there. Please give us a follow. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on these videos, what you think, teams, who you think teams will cut. So you can discuss with us on Twitter for that. We also have merch available. There's a link in the description. Lots of cool stuff there. And our subscriber goal is 20K subscribers now. Please help us get there by clicking the subscribe button and clicking the like button on any video. We much appreciated as well. But for these videos, I'm actually going to be using this website, and there's going to be a link in the description for it. It's called sportrack.com. Link in the description. It's a very useful site, credit to those guys out there that make the site. Very useful. They have the exact numbers here, and we're starting with the Denver Broncos, as you can see. I wanted to start with the AFC West because of what just happened today, actually, the Flacco trade. So I thought that was, hot topic. But we'll go through every team, random order of divisions, but we'll get there. I promise you. We're also going to have team-by-team 7-round mock drafts in the near future, too. So a lot of team-by-team stuff here at the Goat House. But take a look at the Broncos. We'll start with them. They just brought in Joe Flacco, and here's the cap space right here. This is what they're at up here, just over $16 million after the Joe Flacco trade. They traded away a 4th rounder. I think it's pretty interesting. I kind of like Keenum. Obviously way better career Flacco, but I think right now, I think Keenum might be a little better. That's just my opinion, but maybe Flacco with some better weapons. Didn't really have it in Baltimore. But I don't know if it's really all on Keenum for the Broncos. Yeah, they could add some more offense, but the defense, they were supposed to win games based off their defense. That didn't get done. They should now at Vic Fangio. That should be pretty exciting. Do they still draft a quarterback even though they got Flacco? I think it's possible. People are starting to scratch them off, not drafting a quarterback. I think it's possible. You saw what Flacco did, helping Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson ended up being pretty good right away. But something I noticed is, I don't know if the Ravens would have made the playoffs if Flacco stayed in the whole time, and that was a very good team. It was a very good team, so a little scary, but I think they can draft one as well. But the question is, Case Keenum right off the bat, do they trade him? I think they try to trade him. I don't know if anybody takes him. Again, I like Keenum, but it's very risky for that big contract. Does anybody want to take that in? I think there's teams that would, but I believe they would need a draft pick in return, maybe a mid-round pick. I don't think the Broncos are willing to do that. They just traded a 4th-round pick. They need their picks, so I think it's tough to tell now. Maybe we'll get into it more with our free agent predictions, get some other guys' views on it. But I'll say most likely right now he gets released. So as you can see, here's $16.2 million is the cap space. What happens if the Broncos release Case Keenum? Very cool site here. This helps me out a lot. It goes up to $27.2 million. So you're going to have some dead money, obviously. But the cap for this year brings you to $27 million. It gives you room for Vic Fangio to go do his thing. Get guys that fit your defense. The good thing is there's already a lot of guys that fit his defense, but they do probably need some offensive tools as well. But Keenum will be gone. Will he be traded? Will he be cut? We'll say he's cut right now. $27.249 million is what they got. Take a look at some of the other guys here. Emmanuel Sanders has come up that they may trade or cut him, maybe trade him. I don't think it happens. We can take a look right here. What happens if they cut him too? It goes up to 37, but I don't think it happens. I think it's more likely they trade him. What could they get from him? Receiver class is very deep. I don't think teams are really looking to trade for a receiver unless it's a steal. So I don't know if it's really worth it here. He had a pretty good season when healthy. Guys that I'm looking out for, haven't really heard anything, but I think Derek Wolfe could be kind of a bubble player here. Had some very good years, back when they had the Super Bowl run. But the last couple years, maybe due to injury, hasn't really been the same. and he gets paid a good amount of money there. So they could try to trade him, can try to cut him. What do I think he's worth? What do I think they can get from him? Because of the contract, I don't. It's gonna be a day 3 pick, I think. Could be very talented still. But also at the same time, maybe Vic Fangio wants to work with him. He's a talented defensive end. Maybe he wants to work with him. I think he fits his defense. So can they cut him? I think it's an option. I think first they go look for a pay cut. I think they try to give him a pay cut. Is he willing to take it? We'll take him off the board here. Let's see what happens if they cut him. Goes up to 35, just over 35 million, actually almost 36 million in cap room. So they're able to re-sign some guys. They got a good amount of free agents. Will Shane Ray fit Vic Fangio? I think they would like Bradley Roby back. So Derek Wolfe is a candidate. I don't know if it's going to happen. But another guy I look at is Darian Stewart. I think the future at safety could be Justin Simmons and Will Parks. And Darian Stewart's really not the same. So I don't know if it's a guy you can trade. I think he could get cut. I think it's a very strong possibility. If you cut him, it goes up to 39 million. So let's say Derek Wolfe does not get cut. We're back at 30. So is it worth it to cut Darian Stewart here? See, we add him back on the team. It's not a whole bunch of money there, but it makes some cap room. Just brought in Flacco. You're going to need some pieces that fits the new coaching staff's team here. So another guy I would look out for, really the last one I think is, you also have Su'a Cravens as a depth guy for safety too. I know he could be more of a box guy. Looking at Devontae Booker, is it worth cutting him? He's your third string running back. Is it worth having him sit around? If you would cut him, it only goes up $1 million. So is it worth it there? Maybe a team would trade a 7th-round pick for Devontae Booker that could help them out there, gain a late-round pick in return. You don't really need him. You have your 2 running backs of the future with Phillip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. So that's what I think they can do. That's what I'll look out for. I'm looking out for Devontae Booker, not too much of a cap gain, so maybe not the most important move. Darian Stewart, I think they may have their futures at safety. We've seen Vic Fangio, you didn't really work with like the big name DBs over in Chicago. It kind of made them into the bigger names. So I think he worked well with the young guys. I like Justin Simmons a lot. So Darian Stewart can be on the move. Doesn't get paid that much, so maybe it's not that necessary. Keenum will be on the move if he gets traded. I think that the other team would want something in return, which you don't see a lot in the NFL, but it's because his contract is so big. Teams would like Keenum. I think they think he can play, but I don't know if they would like it for that money because he'd probably go to a team that would also draft. They would also draft a quarterback too. So and then Derek Wolfe is another one to look out for. So I'm thinking, when they go into free agency, I'm thinking they have somewhere around 31.5 million in cap. But then, any Broncos fans out there, let me know your thoughts on Derek Wolfe. We know is about what he can do, but is he getting paid too much? I'm thinking you're looking for the pay cut. Maybe you can trade him for a mid-round pick. That would be great. Maybe you can get it back. So the Flacco deal is pretty even. Maybe you can do something like that. I don't know if any team would want that, cap hit. But if you do get rid of him, it goes all the way up to 40. So you can get a lot of your guys back. You can go out and look for some more free agents. Top of my head, since I mentioned Darian Stewart could be cut, and they do have solid safeties, but Adrian Amos, who was on Vic Fangio's defense in the Bears, is a free agent. So maybe they want to bring a guy like that in. So maybe they can look for Derek Wolfe replacements. They're pretty deep on the D-line. So we'll see what they do. I think they'll have him between 30 and 40 million in cap. Again, any Broncos fans out there, you can go to the site, give me a link in the description. Let me know what you come up with. Let me know your thoughts here. But let's move on. I would like to move on to another AFC West team here. How about we go with the Oakland Raiders? Why not? Got the Raiders to do. We got the Chargers and the Chiefs to do. To look at the Raiders, I still think it's a slight possibility, but still a possibility that they could trade Derek Carr. They wouldn't just cut him, obviously. I think if, they fall in love with the quarterback in the draft, they could trade him. I think it's unlikely, but, Gruden always likes to get his own quarterback in there everywhere he goes, but kind of started to develop something with Carr. Later in the season, they started to get along, so don't think it happens, but you never know. if they decide to trade him, they have plenty of cap, so they don't really need to cut much. But decided to trade him. Our very own Danny Provolone actually brought up quite the scenario, and it makes sense actually to me, but it would be for a draft pick. Let's see if we can throw. We can't throw any players in here or picks in here. He thought that Derek Carr going to Jacksonville, and then they would swap. The Jags would give the Raiders their early pick, but then they would take one of the Raiders' later first-round picks in return. Let's see if we process this trade. It goes up to $84 million. But again, I think it's unlikely. I think there's just rumors out there, and it's a possibility. So most likely they're starting with $69.7 million. And anybody they could cut. Donald Penn really isn't the same as he used to be. Can they cut him? I don't know if it's really necessary to. Bumps up to 74 because I don't know if they're going to be using all this cap. It's hard to come across starting linemen, even linemen for depth. So I don't know. I don't know if it happens here. Jordy Nelson's possibility didn't really live up to the hype there. I guess there wasn't too much. They could draft quite a few receivers, and they can get rid of Jordy Nelson here. Go from $69 million to $73 million. A.J. McCarron. I still think they could actually draft quarterback even if they hang on the Carr. So A.J. McCarron could be out. Bumps up to $78 million. Maybe they'll try to trade him for a late-round pick. I don't know if many guys will or need to be cut on the Raiders because they have the cap space. It's not the most appealing spot for free agents. You're going to get free agents, but it's not the most appealing spot, so you're not going to be big spenders. The only one I can, at the top of my head, that I think they can be big spenders on is Le'Veon Bell. They could use a running back, and, I think it's a possibility, but I think he only goes there if he gets a lot of the money. But you have plenty cap space. And again, that's the cap space for this upcoming season alone. So I don't know if I really expect to. I think these two could be cut or try to be dealt. I think you definitely can get a 7th rounder for both. Maybe you can get a 6th rounder for Jordy Nelson. Not really the same as he used to be, but the Packers really weren't the same without him. So maybe they would like to get him back somehow. Unlikely, but I think they'll be. The Raiders are fine with their cap situation. I think they could try to bring in a big free agent like Le'Veon Bell. If they maybe they do need the cap space because since they're not the most appealing spot, they got to overspend. So I think they'll like some of the pass rushes that I also think will get franchise tagged. Do they try to go for the big ones? Do they go for Clowney? I don't know if they can actually get him. Do they go for Frank Clark? I think Ziggy Ansah is actually realistic. I think he may want more money than you should give him. Kind of been injured, hasn't really played to where he used to be since he got injured. So if you want to if you think there's a real chance you can bring in Le'Veon Bell and a Ziggy Ansah, then yeah, maybe you need to clear some space. They still got plenty of space, but maybe you can cut Jordy Nelson, A.J. McCarron. You got $78 million in cap. Maybe you can make some moves there, get a couple guys like that. Do you want to bring in Earl Thomas? I think he would go elsewhere. I think Le'Veon Bell's an option. I think they gotta win the bidding really for. They got to spend the most money to get him though. But I think it's an option. So we'll see. That's my thought on the Raiders. Not too many options to cut because they have plenty of cap. Los Angeles Chargers. Let's go. What do they got? They got 19.5 in cap. So, not a whole lot playing to work with. Great thing about the Chargers is they're a pretty complete team. They don't have a whole bunch of needs. They could use interior D-line, and they can use linebacker. They have a couple free agents, linebacker spot. Could use some anyways. But other than that, maybe you try to get Tyrell Williams back. Maybe you lose him. You got plenty of receivers. You can get one later in the draft that can, fill the depth spot. Mike Williams is going to continue to step up. So I don't think they have a whole bunch of needs. They could use another lineman for depth, maybe a starter on the right side. But I think they have the cap space to do what they want to do. They don't have to be big spenders. I like a lot of their players too. I like a lot of these guys, so I don't know if there's really a reason to cut. Travis Benjamin, Is he playing to that amount of money? I don't know. They use him in different ways. He's definitely a weapon if you're going to lose Tyrell Williams. Maybe you need to hang on to Travis Benjamin. It goes from $19 million to $24 million, so maybe it's worth it to cut him. You could get, with not a lot of needs, and with the depth of the receivers in this draft class, I think you can go in and even get a couple replacements here that aren't going to be too far. There's a lot of those weapons, those shifty guys like Travis Benjamin that you can get in day 3, and you don't have to pay as much. So I actually think that is a solid option, but, you never really know what's going to fall to you in the draft. You can't really, it's hard to predict. As good as those guys are, at their jobs, it's near impossible to predict who's going to be there. So, you don't want to know, I don't know if you want to take the risk because you lose Tyrell. Let's say they lose Tyrell Williams, and you cut Travis Benjamin, and then maybe you're not able to get a receiver you like because, earlier in the draft, most likely you want to go linebacker, D-line, or offensive lineman. But, it's a little risky. But I do think there's quite a few Travis Benjamins in the draft that are cheaper options that you can get on day 3. You can even get 2 of them if you want. So most likely it would be a decent move, but Benjamin can still help them. We'll see if that's a move they make. Other guys... Yeah, I don't really think it's that necessary to cut a lot of guys here. Does Virgil Green is that a possibility? I don't know if any of these guys can be traded. Hunter Henry's got to come back. Maybe they draft one too. Again, you can get one later. That's maybe a little cheaper. Actually, that the cap goes down with that. So, too much interesting. Dead money there. So, don't want to cut Virgil Green, actually. So that's why the site's great. It helps us out here. Helps me a lot. I don't think there's too many cuts to be made here. I'm excited to see Kaiser White. He was injured this year. They're moving from safety to linebacker. See if he can step up in the linebacker position. Guys like this, Carter, I don't think it's worth really cutting guys like this. They're not... It goes up $1 million, if you need it. But they're not really going to be huge spenders in free agency, so... I think they're pretty much going to be staying where they're at. Is there any guys that you could trade? Don't think they really want to trade any of these guys. I don't know. Adai, can they cut him? Goes up $29 million. Is it really necessary? It's tough because, again, you don't know what you're going to get in the draft until the draft happens. So I think they pretty much stick around where they're at. I do like Travis Benjamin. But, again, I think that's a strong possibility because I think you can get cheaper guys in the draft that can do the same job, maybe even better for the future at least, for the Chargers. So I think they'll be around that area. They can bump it up to maybe close to $25 million in cap space, see what they want to do. They could bring in a lineman in free agency. They've been good in finding those guys in free agency lately. So we'll see what they want to do. And the last one will be the Kansas City Chiefs. For the AFC West, again, we're going to go every division, every team, see my thoughts. Maybe we'll have some guys getting traded here. But the Chiefs, I saw Justin Houston could be one. I don't think they do it. I think they need him. I think they're going to get I think they're going to franchise D4. They need both those guys because you remember how bad that defense was, and that was kind of a reason they really couldn't get to the Super Bowl, and it was a reason why they lost some games they lost in regular season. But at the same time, they led the NFL in sacks, because of D4 and Justin Houston and Chris Jones. So if you take that away, how bad is that defense? So, I think those are your best guys. I think you go out and draft and look for guys in free agencies in the DB area, the secondary. So I think you got to hang on to Justin Houston. I don't think they cut him. I really don't. I don't even think they trade him. Sammy Watkins. It's tough because he got a good amount of money. At the time we thought it was maybe a little too much, and he was hurt. Didn't do too much. He's on the field, but you can see it with the weapon. He has some in the Colts game. A definite weapon. And you have too many needs on the defensive side, too, where you can't afford to open up a need at receiver, really. You got to fill these defensive holes. So let's just see. If they're at $24.5 million, if they cut him, it actually, so you gave him too much guaranteed money there last year. I thought that was a big contract. I don't know. But he's definitely a weapon. If you're able to trade him, I'm not really sure. Again, I like the receiver class. I think teams will like the receiver class. I don't know if there's receivers that are going to be dealt for that reason. So Sammy Watkins is going to stay put, I think. Barry, Gonna be hard to cut Barry if they think about it. It's gonna be hard because he's been one of the leaders of this defense. So I don't know if they do it. I don't know if they can get a trade partner because he's been injured, got quite a bit of a cap hit. It only goes up $2 million too. There's a lot of guaranteed money in there, so definitely not worth it there. Any other players? Another team that's they got their guys really. They just got to get some defensive guys. Currently the defensive guys, as you can see, with Justin Juice at the top, and Eric Berry, but a lot of offensive guys towards the top. But maybe you want to cut an Eric Murray, bump it up $2 million. You can go spend for Earl Thomas. Get if any corners available, you can go get them. Not the best corner market, but there's some guys here that could be cut. The defensive guys they want to move on from. Xavier Williams, $29 million. So they can make some moves here. Definitely can make some moves. Demarcus Robinson bumps up to 31. I know that could open it up. He gets paid more than Tyreek Hill. That's funny. But I know you don't want to open up any more needs here because you got to fill a lot of needs of the defense. But I think you can make things work for veterans on the defensive side for cutting guys like this. In free agency, you can get these veterans like I mentioned, like Earl Thomas. We talked about Bradley Roby. I think the Broncos should get him back. Maybe the Chiefs go for somebody like that. Maybe they draft a safety in a corner in the first couple rounds. They can play right away. You got to get the guys that can play right away. Look at free agency, the draft, because obviously it's a win now team, but they're also a win in the future team. So you want to get the right guys here. It's tough. Looking through the rest of this, I don't know if any of these other guys. Yeah, they're the cap number is not too big on these guys, so it's really not worth it. But these are some of the guys I would look for to cut. Sorensen actually started playing pretty decent at the end of the year, but obviously you can get better here. Bumps up $2 million. I don't know if it's really worth it. I think it's realistic that they can cut some of the guys I had here. Xavier Williams there. It's not the biggest difference, cutting these guys, but I think we're gonna start to see some of these teams like this that need veteran free agents to win now. Cut some small contract guys here and there so they can make that extra room, because you do want to you don't want to be at zero or in the negative going in the draft. You want to keep space going in the draft. $8 million, I'd say it's not gonna take $8 million for the whole draft, but you always want to have some extra cushion there too. So I think it maybe takes around $6 million cap for the draft. So you got to keep some available. So, and the Chiefs are a team that should go out and look for a guy like Earl Thomas. There's a couple other safeties out there. Maybe they go Landon Collins, something like that. Some of those corners out there. We'll see. So I expect them to have in that 30 range in cap space, actually, which is very good for a team that, just I think was one of the better teams in all of football. They went to the AFC Championship game. So I think that would be a good number. They're already sitting at a pretty good number here. If they can try to find a trade partner for some of these guys, I don't think it's likely, but we'll see. We will see. So that's the AFC West teams. Again, over the next week or two, we're going to go through all these. We're also going to go through free agents one by one. We're going to start with the big names, work our way down. We're going to have potential landing spots for each of those free agents, and then finally, at the end of the video, we'll kind of predict where we think they will actually land. We did pretty good on that last year. We kind of got a lot of them right. So hopefully we're on the money again this year. Can't wait to do those. Got plenty of draft coverage too. We're going to be talking a lot about free agency and draft during this offseason. So it's already starting to heat up too. At the Flacco trade, Kareem Hunt going to the Browns, lots of Kyler Murray nonsense. So lots of good stuff going on. So can't wait to talk about it all. Again, check out our Twitter. Lots of good stuff on there. We talk about the draft. We talk daily about NFL stuff on there, so please check us out. Check out the Instagram as well. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Stay tuned for more. Goodbye.